AEW President and CEO Tony Khan has become the most polarizing promoter in all of wrestling, despite his best intentions to stay out of the spotlight. Unfortunately, Tony Twitterfingers can't help himself because he's prone to social media meltdowns, which bring about unneeded attention to Khan and AEW. It's one thing if these meltdowns were entertaining by design, but they're only entertaining because the man has a criminal lack of self-awareness, one built into his upbringing as a billionaire. Khan's many successes have also come with their faults. He's become radio silent in moments that demand leadership. He tries to salvage ratings with major announcements. Despite offering an alternative product, he pushes WWE superstars past their prime. I've been studying Tony Khan since day one and followed his evolution in AEW, or lack thereof, and these are the 7 deadly sins that make Tony Khan so unlikable as AEW president. Tony Khan's temper tantrums on Twitter have become a staple of his entire personality. If Khan had a spirit animal, it would be a Twitter bird. He's no Vince McMahon, which means he's not a larger-than-life promoter. In fact, Tony Khan has vowed not to become a television character on AEW TV, though he does come closer and closer to breaking that vow every year. Still, Tony Khan's pro wrestling character has been curated almost entirely through Twitter, mostly to disastrous results. I can make an entire documentary of Tony Khan's worst moments on Twitter. Khan had a New Year's Eve meltdown against Big Swole in 2021. In April of 2022, Khan whined about anti-AEW bots. Khan called Shawn Michaels and Triple H bald assholes ahead of the latest Tuesday Night Wars in October of 2023. Earlier this month, Khan took the bait from USA Network when he melted down over Jinder Mahal in Hook as to whom deserves to be a #1 contender for a world title. This was actually a fun moment on social media that garnered reactions from Corey Graves, Eric Bischoff, and Bully Ray, among others. And all of this is just a short list. For more fun with Tony Twitterfingers, check out this video. Don't ever let Tony Khan convince you that he's one of the peace brokers in pro wrestling. He's every bit as divisive as the leadership in WWE. Khan just does a better job trying to hide it and fails at every turn. You gotta remember, Tony Khan grew up in the internet age of pro wrestling, which ultimately became the social media age. That means the best way Tony Khan can express himself is through a computer, like a fucking dork. Unfortunately, this dork's Twitter activity and lack of self-awareness also gives way to Khan playing the victim. Tony Khan, who's worth billions of dollars, often tries to play the victim card, which garners zero sympathy from anybody with a history of sexual activity. In addition to complaining about anti-AEW bots, Tony Khan has also been known to cry about AEW being under constant attack, as if that makes him any more unique from anybody or anything on Twitter. Remember, only 4.6% of people on planet Earth use Twitter. So the next time you see somebody catching heat on the Bird app, remember that all that shit ends as soon as you close your laptop. Sadly, Tony Khan isn't capable of that. So whenever he sees negativity on Twitter about AEW, he thinks it represents what everybody in the world thinks about All Elite Wrestling. If this keeps up, this won't end well for AEW, and Tony Khan will continue to book his product based on critique from anti-AEW bots and trending topics. Similar to how NFL coaches have a get-back guy to keep them off the field, Tony Khan really needs a get-back guy to keep him off Twitter. Speaking of which, you need to make sure you're getting back to good health with help from our sponsor, Let's Get Checked. Today's pro wrestling bit is sponsored by Let's Get Checked. This is a great company that offers discreet, affordable, and professional access to at-home testing. Let's Get Checked will empower you to live a happier and healthy life by taking control of your health with easy-to-use testing kits from the comfort of your own home. Let's Get Checked offers a variety of testing to ensure that you are literally living your best life. They've got male hormone tests, female fertility test, STD test, COVID test, diabetes, and that's just a short list. Over 30 at-home tests are available today. Once you receive a testing kit, just use the easy-to-follow instructions to collect your own sample and mail it back to the lab.
Each sample is anonymously analyzed in a certified lab by a team of medical professionals. All results are delivered directly to the user and discussed between the user and the nurse. Results are private and the user can even view them online. Let's Get Checked has administered over 3 million tests. So what are you waiting for? Keeping up to date with your health could literally be a life or death decision.
Right now, you can go to our sponsor, http://trylg.com/pro-wrestling-bits and use the code WRESTLING25 for 25% off a home sample collection kit from Let's Get Checked.
Just click the link in the description. I need you all to be as happy and as healthy as possible because who else am I going to talk about wrestling with? Now back to the bit.
Tony Khan is now bringing AEW's ranking systems back, which was a colossal failure the first time around. No wrestling promotion has ever been able to successfully book its product by ranking wrestlers, including AEW, because these are wrestling promotions, not wrestling leagues. These failed ranking systems go hand in hand with the murderer's row of AEW championship belts. And at this point, there are so many AEW titles, it devalues what it means to be a champion. I don't know how many championships Tony Khan plans to introduce to AEW. Khan recently added the ROH Women's Tag Team Championships and the Triple Crown Championship to his promotion. I like the ambition, but with all these titles between AEW and ROH, it's going to be impossible to decide who deserves what opportunity. And as a result, I guarantee you this system will fall apart all over again. Despite being AEW's president and CEO, Tony Khan suffers from a severe lack of leadership. Unlike Vince McMahon, who grew up watching his father manage wrestlers, Tony Khan grew up as an online wrestling fan. Khan is like if a subredditor decided to start his own wrestling promotion. Tony Khan is like if a little boy's wrestling toys came to life. Tony Khan is like if somebody played a wrestling video game that suddenly became a promotion. This isn't a leader just yet. Not with this generation of hardened pro wrestling veterans like Chris Jericho and Edge and Christian. Tony Khan had a hot start in AEW, but his shortcomings in leadership quickly reared its ugly head during the CM Punk media scrum, when Khan fell silent. Following the Brawl Out, Khan refused to comment on anything that had to do with CM Punk and the Elite. In fact, his lack of leadership became such a problem, it led to the Brawl In between Punk and Jungle Boy Jack Perry, one that everybody saw coming except Tony Khan himself. To this day, Tony Khan still hasn't gone into any detail about any of these events outside of his comments that he feared for his life on the day of the Brawl In.
My security, my safety, my life was in danger at a wrestling show.
These were the comments that Tony Khan made when he fired CM Punk for cause, thereby handing Cousin Phil to WWE on a silver platter during WrestleMania season. What? Of all times to fire Cousin Phil, after Tony Khan stated CM Punk's fight with Jack Perry almost claimed his life, AEW World Heavyweight Champion Samoa Joe recently commented on the incident, painting a much different, more docile picture of the events that went on. Quote, "It was a little bit of an incident. We got it broken up. We went out there and wrestled, man. That's the gist of it. Everybody wants it to be a lot more than what it is, but that's what it was. And to speak any more on it would be pointless unless you're trying to get a scorecard and stuff. But trust me, it wasn't that type of fight." End quote. Oh, so it wasn't that type of fight. Bruh, when your own world champion gives a public quote that contradicts everything you said about a Brawl In that made you, quote, fear for your life, you've lost the locker room. AEW Dynamite's ratings have not hit 1 million viewers since February of 2023. That's right, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary since AEW's last 1 million viewers show. And every time AEW's ratings decline to the point of it being scary, Tony Khan's response is to advertise a major announcement. These major announcements actually started with some juice. The announcement of All In, the debut of AEW Collision, the return of CM Punk. But then they quickly lost credibility with announcements like the All In 2 ticket sales, the announcement of the All Men's pay-per-view Forbidden Door, and the now canceled AEW All Access. Tony Khan's major announcements have now become a meme and a punchline in and of themselves, and signal to viewers that AEW's viewership is struggling and the company is going to its tried and true playbook to revive them. Tony Khan's next major announcement should be that he's quitting Twitter. Honestly, that would garner more chatter than any ticket sales update, I'll tell you that. Tony Khan spends way too much time catering to incel wrestling fans and media. Khan rallies around dorks like Bix and Rovert, but feuds with wrestling mavericks like myself, Ariel Helwani, and Darren Ravel. That's why AEW has taken on this personality as a wrestling company that's a savior of all the wrestling fans who didn't shower. Show me an AEW wrestling media scrum, and I'll show you an AEW job fair of future incompetent wrestling executives. Tony Khan spends all this time complaining about people who criticize his company, yet his press conferences look like the anime section of Comic-Con. Throw a water balloon at an AEW media scrum and about 13 virgins get wet. Shit, I'll tell you who doesn't get wet in an AEW media scrum. Women. As long as AEW has this aesthetic of a wrestling company championed by Poindexters who pay rent for a locker, they'll never be seen as a crossover wrestling company, and there will always be a threat of WBD ditching them. Khan started AEW by pushing young, unknown talent. Pillars, if you will, like Jack Perry, Sammy Guevara, MJF, and Darby Allin. But as the years have gone on, the ratings have declined and the crowds have shrunk, a desperate Tony Khan has turned to the past. Some of AEW's top stars today include a 50-year-old Edge, a 50-year-old Christian Cage, and a retiring 64-year-old Sting, flanked by a 74-year-old Ric Flair. In fact, here's my list of the top 14 wrestlers over 40, because it's getting bad. Both WCW and TNA rose and fell on the strength of old wrestlers past their prime, and AEW is in danger of doing the same thing. Sometimes I get the feeling that AEW doesn't know what it wants to be, whether it's New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling, Attitude Era WWE, or Jim Crockett Promotions. A lack of identity is the worst thing for a pro wrestling company, and AEW is in the midst of figuring itself out 5 years in with its TV deal in limbo. Get focused immediately. Check out this Tony Twitter Fingers playlist and subscribe. What do you hate about Tony Khan the most? Tell me in the comments!